Hello all, thank you for joining us. We're going to give you just a minute or two to settle in and get people on the line. You are here for the 101-92 Interchange Direct Connector scoping meeting. We'll start shortly. All right, it looks like we have a good number of people joining us, so we are going to jump right in and be respectful of your time. Good evening and welcome to the first of two environmental scoping meetings for the US 101 State Route 92 Interchange Director Connector project. My name is Brandy Childress, and I will be your facilitator this evening. I am joined by agency and consultant staff who will be presenting on the project and whom I will introduce here in just a moment. But I do need to let you know that this meeting is being recorded. Before we get started, I am to read the non-discrimination policy statement in its entirety. Which will be followed by two interpreters reading the statement in Spanish and Chinese, respectively. After this, we will provide instructions on how to access interpretation services during this meeting. Make sure you guys are all seeing the slide here. The California Department of Transportation under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 ensures no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Caltrans will make every effort to ensure non-discrimination in all of its services, programs, and activities, whether they are federally funded or not, and that services and benefits are fairly distributed to all people, regardless of race, color, or national origin. In addition, Caltrans will facilitate meaningful participation in the transportation planning process in a non-discriminatory manner. Related federal statutes, remedies, and state law further these protections to include sex, disability, religion, sexual orientation, and age. For information or guidance on how to file a complaint or obtain more information regarding Title VI, please contact the Title VI branch manager at 916-324-8379 or visit the following webpage at dot.ca.gov/programs/civil rights/Title VI. Now Rosa will now read the statement in Spanish. Rosa, do we have you on?
I'll go ahead and read the statement.
Thank you.
Declaración de la norma de no discriminación. El Departamento de Transporte de California, bajo el título 6 de la Ley de Derechos Civiles de 1964, asegura que ninguna persona de los Estados Unidos, debido a su raza, color u origen nacional, será excluida de participar, ni se le negarán los beneficios o será objeto de discriminación en ningún programa o actividad que reciba ayuda financiera federal. Caltrans hará todos los esfuerzos para asegurar que no exista discriminación en ninguno de sus servicios, programas y actividades, ya sea que sean recibidas fondos de gobierno federal o no. Si los servicios y beneficios sean ajustables, distribuidos a todas las personas sin importar su raza, color u origen nacional. Adicionalmente, Caltrans facilitará la participación significativa en el proceso de planeación de los programas de transporte de manera no discriminatoria. Los estatutos federales relacionados, los remedios y la ley estatal refuerzan esta protección para incluir el sexo, la discapacidad, la religión y la orientación sexual y la edad. Para más información u orientación sobre cómo presentar una queja o obtener más información relacionada con el título 6, por favor comunicarse con el gerente del título 6 al teléfono 916-324-8379 o visite la siguiente página de internet https://programas civiles, civil rights.
Thank you so much, Rosa. Now we will ask Miranda to please now read the statement in Mandarin.
Thank you. My name is Miranda. I will speak the following in Mandarin. Sorry. 好，谢谢各位参加今天的洲际101公路、洲际92公路的交会接驳工程探讨的会议。以下来的我会念那个非歧视政策声明。按据1964年的民权法案第6章，加利福尼亚州运输部确保在美国任何人不得因种族、肤色或者民族血统而被排除在任何接受联邦财政援助的计划或者活动之外，或者被剥夺其权利或者受到歧视。加利福尼亚州运输部将尽一切的努力，确保在其所有的服务、计划或者活动中不受歧视，无论这种服务、计划或活动是否有联邦资助，并确保服务和福利公平的分配给所有人，无论其种族、肤色或者民族血统如何。此外，加利福尼亚州运输部还将以非歧视的方式促进有意义的参与与交通规划的过程。相关的联邦法规、救济和州法律进一步的强了对性别、残疾、宗教、性取向和年龄方面的保护。如你需要有关如何投诉的信息或者指导，或者是获取有关第6章的更多的信息，请致电916-324-8379，联系第六章部门经理，或者可以访问以下的网页：https那个 .ca/gov/programs/civil rights/title 6. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rosa and Miranda and Elena and Agnes are also here with us tonight to provide interpretation services. So for participants who are needing interpretation services, we are asking you to navigate to the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen. And in your webinar controls, you will click the interpretation button and the language you would like to hear. From this point on, the presentation will be delivered in English and translated simultaneously on a separate audio track. So I'm going to ask the interpreters to also explain that instruction on the screen. Rosa, please go first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Para los participantes que necesiten servicios de interpretación, por favor dirigirse al final de la pantalla al botón de interpretación o al módulo de interpretación. Haga clic en el botón de interpretación y seleccione el lenguaje en el cual usted quiera escuchar esta interpretación.
Thank you. Miranda?
谢谢各位参加今天的会议。如果你需要传译服务的话，请你浏览屏幕底下的传译服务功能，下面有一个传译服务的按键， 然后你可以在那个写了网上研讨会的那个控制栏，然后点击传译服务 Interpretation， 然后找出汉语那个国语。如果你想听的国语的话，你就点击国语，你需要听的语言服务就行了。谢谢。
Thank you. I'll now give everyone just a moment for those who need to switch channels to please do so. And then we will continue on. Okay, so here's how submitting a question during the meeting will work. We will take project questions and comments through the Q&A chat feature located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you are calling in on the phone line, please dial *9 to raise your hand, and our moderator will take you off of mute to ask a question or share your comment. Of course, we ask that you be respectful and refrain from the use of profanity. Inappropriate comments and questions will be removed and will not be discussed. Comments submitted during our question and answer portion of the meeting will not be considered formal and will not be addressed in the environmental document. So I will share how to submit a formal comment here in a following slide. We want to thank you for taking the time to tune in tonight. The scoping phase of a project is an opportunity for the public to provide early input about the project scope, proposed alternatives, potential environmental impacts, and what the draft environmental document will study. The purpose of this meeting is to provide an opportunity for you to learn about the project and ask questions. As a reminder, questions during this meeting are for informational purposes only. And I'm trying to be mindful of my pace in speaking so we can make sure the interpreters are being able to follow. In order to submit a formal comment, a scoping comment into the formal record to Caltrans, it must be done by mail, email, or online, as detailed on the slide that you are seeing here. This will be shown again at the end of the presentation and during Q&A, question and answers. We do want to flag for you that the comments are due by May 15th, 2024. And again, we'll share this information towards the end of the presentation. Okay, so we're going to jump into the meat of the meeting here. The agenda is shown here on the screen. I'm going to do some quick introductions on the next slide, and then the team will provide the project overview, discuss all that goes into an environmental evaluation, and review the project schedule and next steps. Of course, we'll open it up for questions and comments afterwards, and then adjourn the meeting. Okay, so I'm going to announce the presenters who are shown on screen. I will work from the right and go to the left. So for our environmental evaluation for this project tonight, Laura Prickett with Circle Point will lead us through that. Then we have Sharina Lam with Kimley Horn, who will provide the project overview tonight. Myself, who is facilitating the presentation and will also facilitate the Q&A. Jessica Manzi with the San Mateo County Transportation Authority, who will share a few words about the various project partner roles and importance of this project for the region. And Sean Charpentier, Executive Director of the City and County Association of Governments of San Mateo County, will now discuss the importance of this process. Sean, would you like to take it away, please?
Good evening. My name is Sean Charpentier. I'd like to begin by recognizing elected officials who are attending right now. First, we have Harvey Rarbeck from the Vice Mayor of the City of Half Moon Bay. We have Adam Lorraine, who is a council member in the City of San Mateo. We have Lisa Diaz-Nash, who is currently the mayor in the City of San Mateo. And also we have Rich Hedges, who is a City of San Mateo council member, a CCAG board of directors on the board of directors, as well as a member of the board of directors of the San Mateo County Express Lanes JPA. This is a public scoping meeting, and we are here to hear from you, and we appreciate your attendance. The 92-101 interchange is a critical part of our transportation ecosystem in San Mateo County. Every day it is used by countless San Mateo County residents and commuters to get to work and to get to school. And it is also a significant regional connection between us in the East Bay as well as us in the South Bay. Every day there are hundreds of thousands of trips through this interchange, and we are happy to begin this process about talking about ways to improve it. Both for our vehicles, single occupancy vehicles, carpools, shuttles, and buses. There are three major partners to this project. The first is Caltrans. Caltrans is the owner-operator of the state highway system, and any modifications to it require Caltrans's approval. Caltrans is also the lead agency and will provide oversight for the environmental document. The City and County Association of Governments of San Mateo County, or CCAG, is one of the two project co-sponsors, and the city CCAG is the congestion management agency, as well as oversees the local STIP funding allocations in the county. The other co-sponsor is the San Mateo County Transportation Authority, or the TA. Our role as co-sponsors is to garner the support and secure the funding needed to advance the project and define the scope of the project. We're utilizing a team of consultants to prepare the technical studies that will be generated and compiled as part of the environmental review process. We are pleased to work alongside the TA to deliver projects that are providing mobility solutions in San Mateo County. And with that, I'll hand it off to Jessica Manzi to talk more about the importance of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, and once again, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us. While this project will improve connectivity through this critical interchange, I want to speak briefly about how the Direct Connector is part of a larger solution to make it easier for you to get around and reduces the impact of vehicles on local streets. Last spring, the TA, CCAG, and Caltrans, with local, state, and federal funding, fully launched 22 miles of express lanes on 101, which provides a way for people to opt out of congestion and reduces travel times for people riding Samtrans's new EPX bus route. In addition to express lanes, we've also partnered on other projects to improve mobility in this area, including the 101-92 interchange area improvements that will start construction later this year to address safety and operational issues at 4 key ramp intersections. We're also planning for multimodal improvements to through the 101-92 Mobility Hub and Smart Corridor Study, which explores adding transit and bike options to the existing Caltrans Park and Ride lot underneath the interchange, which is the picture on the right there. Eliminating bottlenecks on the freeway discourages drivers from taking local streets, and providing safe alternatives to driving allows people to avoid driving in the first place. With that, I'll hand it back to Brandy. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you both for being here tonight and helping us with the presentation. All right, we're going to jump in. It's time. Let's do project overview. Sharina, I've got you ready to go. Let me get you to your first slide.
Thank you, Brandy. We'd like to provide you with some background by walking through a few key elements of the project. The project is proposed to be, and it's located where 101 meets 92, focusing on the interchange and along 92 of 101 to the San Mateo Haywood Bridge. And to clarify, there is the area improvement project that's going to be in construction a little later on this year. And this project we're speaking about will be constructed in a future year. The Direct Connector project is planned within the limits shown here on 101 and 92. This project began as part of a planning study that evaluated a wide range of alternatives. Those that were considered viable became part of the Caltrans development process for project initiation, which leads us to where we are today, the step for project approval and environmental clearance, where we will look at the project's benefits and impacts in greater details.
Sharina, just slow down just a little bit for us, just so we can make sure the interpreters are getting it. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Thanks. This project was developed with the primary goals in mind in order to evaluate alternatives to improve travel time reliability for users of the interchange and those coming on and off the San Mateo Haywood Bridge, to encourage more people to carpool and ride transit, and to help the interchange work more efficiently as a system. As traffic continues to grow in the region, drivers using this interchange will experience more delays. It's great that drivers have the option to use the 101 express lane that run in both directions of 101, but 92 has no managed lanes. So there is a lack of connectivity between these two freeways for HOVs and transit operation. During the morning and afternoon commute, traffic moves very slowly as it approaches the interchange on 101 and 92. The stop and go condition occur along both freeways, and the ramps that connect them create bottlenecks and backups that cause delays at the interchange. So to address the needs at the interchange, the project is considering 3 direct connector alternatives. We will also evaluate the no-bill conditions where there would be no improvements. The intent of the direct connector is to provide access between the 101 express lanes and 92 east of 101 to the San Mateo Haywood Bridge. The idea is to prioritize multi-occupancy vehicles traveling through the interchange, where the managed lane will help enhance traffic flow by regulating vehicular access based on specific criteria, as the managed lane direct connector will link US 101 express lanes from and to 92. This will allow HOV and express lane users the option to stay in their lane on 101 without shifting to the right-hand side to use the ramps. And to provide some perspective, there are several direct connectors in the Bay Area already in operation. The example we have here is the 880-237 interchange, where drivers can stay on the express lanes down the middle of the freeway when going between 880 and 237. Now, for this project, there are some elements that are the same for all 3 built alternatives. Similar to the 880-237 interchange, the direct connector will open on the left-hand side of the travel lanes where we would normally have the managed lane. There will be a flyover that goes above the existing ramps at the interchange, and the flyover will continue onto a new bridge that goes over Seal Slough between the existing bridges toward 92. Each alternative has specific intentions when it comes to addressing heavy traffic. Alternative 1 was developed to address morning commute from the San Mateo Haywood Bridge traveling westbound toward the interchange. So the managed lane connector, shown here in purple, will start from westbound 92 and open up on the left-hand side and take people over Seal Slough onto 101 next to the express lane before the connectors merge with the US 101 express lane. Alternative 2 is a reversible option that will address both morning and afternoon commute hours. Access in and out of the direct connector will be controlled by a mechanism that will allow reversible traffic. There will be signage that indicate whether the access is open or closed. And next slide, please. And the team has been exploring reversible control options that are being used around the country for this alternative. This is an example of a reversible lane that's operating in Texas. There are swing gates and signs that tell the drivers when the ramp entrance is open or closed, and determining the appropriate system will be part of the evaluation process. Alternative 3 will address the afternoon traffic from 101 to eastbound 92 heading towards the San Mateo Haywood Bridge. The management connector will start from northbound and southbound 101, open up on the left-hand side of the 101 express lane, and go over the interchange and seal slough and onto eastbound 92. And as we continue our evaluation, all the alternatives will be refined with more details.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Sharina, for walking us through the project overview. And before we dive into the environmental evaluation, I did just want to recognize Peter Skinner, who is with us tonight. Sorry we missed you earlier. Wanted to recognize him as Executive Officer for the TA. So thank you for joining us. Next is Laura. She's going to walk us through the environmental evaluation process. Go for it.
Thank you. Okay, right now, we're going to look at the environmental process as kind of a timeline on the next slide. And we are currently in the environmental scoping period for this project, which started on April 15th with a public notice of preparation as the first step in the process of the California Environmental Quality Act. This scoping period will end on May 15th. During the scoping period, we invite the public and public agencies to provide input on what should be included in the studies when we start evaluating potential impacts of the project. And the public scoping allows us to work together from the earliest stages. It's been found to be an effective way to bring federal, state, and local agencies and other interested parties together to resolve any concerns. After the environmental scoping period, we will conduct technical studies and then summarize the studies in a draft environmental document, which will be a draft environmental impact report that meets the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, which is referred to as CEQA, and an environmental assessment that meets the requirements of the National Environmental Policy Act, which is called NEPA. The CEQA Environmental Impact Report is a detailed analysis of a proposed project's potentially significant effect on the human environment. And the NEPA environmental assessment evaluates whether a finding of no significant impact may be made for a federal action. To simplify things, we can just call this document an environmental document. When the draft environmental document has been approved for circulation, it will be available for public review and comment, and a public meeting will be scheduled during the public review period. After the public review period, all comments will be considered, and Caltrans will select a preferred alternative and make the final determination of the project's effect on the environment. The public comments will be addressed in a final environmental document, and the selection of a preferred alternative and final determination of the project's effect on the environment will be made. All right, and on our next, so we can look at the next slide now. This slide shows a long list of all the topics that will be studied for the environmental document and evaluated for potential impacts. We will conduct a series of technical studies to address all these topics. And these studies will support the discussions of the potential impacts of the project in the environmental document. As we study each topic, we will evaluate for the potential of each project alternative to result in environmental impacts. And we will identify measures to avoid, minimize, or mitigate the impacts. So we're going to look at a few key environmental topics. We identified 4 topics that we feel are the key topics based on available information. I think there may be some other talking going on. Is there any way we can mute other microphones? Thank you very much. Yeah, so the four key topics are listed here, and we'll go into each one of them in a little detail on the next few slides. One of the key topics is biological resources. There are sensitive habitats in the project area, including areas along saltwater and freshwater waterways. There is potential for some special status species habitat, including habitat for San Francisco onion, longfin smelt, salt marsh harvest mouse, California ridgeways rail, San Francisco garter snake, and others. There's also potential for new bridge piers to go for the direct connector to be placed within Seal Slough or near the shoreline. The next key topic for studying is aesthetic or visual resources. We'll do a visual impact study.
Las estéticas visuales.
Can we put that on a different channel? Thank you. We will conduct a visual impact study that will consider the visual impact of the project alternatives. The project could result in a change of height of existing infrastructure. If so, visual simulations of the project would help people understand how the project might change existing views. The visual analysis will consider multiple viewpoints of proposed structures. Some landscaping in the highway right-of-way or immediately adjacent may need to be removed, and the project would provide replacement landscaping. The third key topic area is the traffic. A traffic study will be conducted and will collect data on existing traffic and provide traffic projections for the build alternatives and the no build. And our final key topic area is air quality and greenhouse gas emissions. The air quality study will evaluate the emissions of air pollutants and greenhouse gases that would result from the alternatives. This analysis would use traffic data from the traffic study.
Thank you, Laura, for going through that with us. Okay, we're almost to the end. We're getting ready to just talk next steps here. Okay. Oops, let me advance the slide. Here we go. Okay, we are getting ready to start technical studies that will evaluate potential environmental impacts of the project, as you heard. Right now, we're in the public scoping period, and you are here tonight, right in the middle of that, in which we invite the public and public agencies to provide input on what should be included in the studies when we start evaluating potential impacts. So we are also, I'm sorry, get to the next slide there. As I had mentioned previously, all formal comments made between April 15th and May 15th will be incorporated and addressed in the draft environmental document that is planned to be available for public comment in early 2026. And out of this process, we expect to reach that preferred project alternative to include in the final environmental document. But we wanted to hang this here a little longer so you can understand how to formally submit those comments, again, to Caltrans by mail, by email, or online. Comments are due May 15th, 2024. And just to reiterate that the scoping phase is the first step in the environmental review phase and the opportunity for the public to provide early input. It informs our team what to study in the environmental document. And again, your input must be provided in writing to be considered a formal comment. I hope we've driven that point home quite a bit. I want to remind everyone how to go ahead and use the Q&A function to submit questions that have actually been rolling in as we've been presenting. And if you do not have access to the chat and you're calling in on the phone line, you can dial *9 to raise your hand, and our moderator will allow you to come off mute to ask your question or leave your comment. Okay, and before I do start to open it up to questions, I did want to also promote the fact that this is, again, one of 2 meetings. We have an in-person scoping meeting happening next Wednesday, May 1st at 6 p.m. at Foster City Community Center. So we encourage people to show up. You can talk to staff and you can look at project boards and get a good feel of what this project is about and why we are studying it and all the good things that you can do to leave a formal comment. Okay, we are going to open it up to some of them. I'm going to read some of the questions that we've been seeing. Give me 1 second. I'd like to leave this slide up for just a minute, but then I may take it down as we go through questions and we can see a full screen of those who are going to be answering questions. Okay, so we do have, we're going to start with, let's start with some environmental questions that we've already started to receive, and I'm going to ask Laura to come off mute and answer some of these. Can you first explain to us why NEPA is involved? What makes this a federal project?
So NEPA gets involved for a variety of different reasons. In this case, it's primarily due to funding. So federal funding will be used for this project, and that makes it a federal action to disperse federal funds. So that's why NEPA is involved in this project.
Very good. Thank you for that. So, oh, good. Okay.
More environmental?
Short and sweet. Yeah, and I will go on, since we have you, go on to another question. Currently, the sound wall on Highway 101 is only 9 feet tall in the approach to Highway 92. Will this project include a plan to increase the sound wall height to 18 feet, in line with the rest of the sound wall in San Mateo?
That's a really good question. And the kind of the short answer is we don't know yet. And we're going to be studying this. There's a, Caltrans, is adapted federal and state, the federal requirements to create their own Caltrans noise protocol, which is a very robust protocol and really does, I think, a great job looking at, projecting the future noise with and without the project, and also considering the existing noise environment. And so there's criteria involved, there are thresholds, and if a project meets those thresholds, or if a particular location if the noise projection shows that the project would meet a threshold, either under existing or future noise, then a sound wall or other noise abatement measure is considered. And then there are guidelines for figuring out whether those would be feasible in actually solving the problem, and would they be reasonable in being cost effective and not, having an exorbitant amount spent for very, very little benefit. So, for people who are following this will all be discussed in great detail in the draft environmental document, which you can review when it becomes available, and then comment on and ask questions at future public meetings about the draft environmental document.
Thank you for that. And since we're still with you, and I think it's important to really continue to talk about the analysis process and what we need to do in order to answer those questions in the draft environmental document. I know we have
Give us one moment. We're having an interpretation audio channel.
No worries. We'll pause. Let's see if this goes okay. Okay. How about we talk about a little bit of air quality? So,
entonces vamos a hablar un poco más acerca de la calidad del aire.
And Rosa, if you could pause for just a moment.
Okay, so air quality.
Yeah, let me ask the question that we received. I just want to make sure we're not getting simultaneous airtime with our interpreter. So by widening the highway, auto traffic in the area will increase. What will be the resulting increase in air pollution and lung heart disease in San Mateo and Foster City communities adjacent to the highway? So I think really kind of talking about the analysis that we're going to be doing is good.
Yeah. So, we can have the professional traffic staff talk more about any increase in traffic, to the extent that the high occupancy vehicle lane will be improved, might be improved. We don't know yet. We haven't studied it yet. You end up getting more people using the facility by having more people in the high occupancy or, buses and so on and so forth. So, in terms of how many people versus how much traffic, that's an interesting question. But with regard to air quality, definitely, that's one of the big things that we study. That's one of our key topics. So, we will definitely be looking at, what this proposed improvement does to traffic and what any increases in traffic would do to air quality and greenhouse gases. So that will be disclosed in the environmental document, and you'll have a chance to review that and see what's happening. And we don't really know yet what that result will be, so we need to study it.
Thank you for that. Okay, we are gonna switch gears a little bit. Let's see. I will, I want to turn to the kind of more of the project related questions, and then we'll go into cost, and then we'll go into traffic, some more traffic questions. So let's start. Sharina, I'm gonna ask you to come off mute and ask this question. Really kind of maybe to describe cost estimate development, to like what we're doing there. So what is the cost of the different options, ranges for the project? The fact sheet says almost 200 million, but when was that estimate developed? Project costs have skyrocketed in recent years, so old estimates might be inaccurate.
Thanks. Sure, Brandy, thank you. So the cost estimate was prepared as part of the previous project initiation phase about 3.5 years ago, and it had factored in escalation as part of the estimate. But for this phase, the environmental phase, we will further refine the estimate, based on the design, the various alternatives, and we will, because we'll have greater details, we'll be able to put those in there. But there's as with every estimate, we know that things are going to come after. We do factor in escalation to account for that increase in cost that is expected to come in the future.
Very good, thank you. Since you're on the mic, I'm going to ask another question. Sure. Historically, and this is more about the HOV lane exit. Historically, it has been important to include effective signage to warn drivers that they are close to the last exit prior to crossing the San Mateo Bridge. Drivers would cross the bay unintentionally, then need to pay a toll to return to San Mateo. Will these HOV lanes also allow a driver to easily exit 92 prior to crossing the San Mateo Bridge?
I think first, just want to address that this project really focuses on the 101-92 interchange itself, and doesn't, it's not going to lead people that far towards the San Mateo Haywood Bridge. But as part of any project, when we develop it, our design, even at the preliminary phase, we do consult with all of the guidelines, including the California MUTCD, which is the manual for uniform traffic control devices, that will provide us with guidances and very clear standards that that will give drivers and present drivers with messages and information on signs, related to all of these facilities, including the Direct Connector and the HOV and Express Lane.
Thank you, Sharina. Okay, before I turn back over to some cost questions, and I'll ask Jessica Manzi to help answer some of these, just want to remind folks that we ask that you put your questions in the Q&A chat. And if you are on the phone, please, it's okay to, we can come off mute, but please ask your questions online so we can facilitate best who can answer those questions. Okay, some cost questions. Jess, this is for you. Let's start with the shorter question. Are local businesses paying for this project, given their shuttle buses' use of the express lanes?
Thanks, Brandy. So at this point, we don't have a funding plan for the project. We have funding identified for this phase of work, but during this phase, we'll be developing a more detailed funding plan that will help us identify potential funding sources. We do know that for the Express Lanes project, there was a significant contribution from businesses in the area and the region that benefit from the improved travel times by using an express lane. So short answer is it's a little bit too soon to say, but there is potential for that, or we've seen that in the past.
Great. So speaking of benefit, so won't the benefits of the project largely accrue to East Bay residents who drive to the peninsula for work? Shouldn't we be encouraging these people to take part or move to the new housing we are building on the peninsula instead of driving from distant communities? Why are San Mateo County taxpayers sponsoring projects for supercommuters from Modesto and Stockton?
Great, there's a lot in there.
Multiple, if you need me to back it up about the benefits to East Bay residents, yes.
Yeah, so I think I'll just sort of highlight some key factors. So the existing congestion that happens in and around the interchange certainly does impact San Mateo residents. People who live near the interchange, get stuck in that traffic. They're not able to get to where they want to because of the traffic. So that definitely has an impact, and that there are certain locations, particularly along the 101 corridor, where if there is a big congestion bottleneck, we see people actually exiting the freeway and taking local streets to avoid those bottlenecks. So that's something that we definitely see in this area. It's one of the reasons why the city of Foster City implemented turn restrictions during peak hours to discourage commuters from cutting through on city streets to get to 92 from 101. So there's definitely potential benefit for local residents in that sense. And we do see that the local communities are increasing the amount of, or the potential for increasing the amount of housing on the peninsula. And so that there hopefully will be in the future more housing options so people don't have to commute to jobs from the Far East Bay. But I would say as long as housing's more affordable elsewhere and we have such plentiful jobs on the peninsula, we'll probably expect that demand and those desire lines to persist. So I think
thank you. Yes, you did. There. And you also answered another question that was also asked about how will this project discourage traffic on local streets. So excellent. Thank you for answering that without even knowing it. We have, I know I still have you on the line, so we might switch a little bit. I'll let you off the hook in a second. Let's talk, I'll give you a traffic question and then we'll ask Ravi to also ask another question about traffic. Nope, did it disappear? Yes, it did. Okay, Jess, I'm gonna let you off the hook for a second. We have a traffic question. Ravi, are you on? Thank you, bud. Here we go. So currently, 93,000 cars travel across the San Mateo Bridge each day. This is a number that was shared in the chat. How much will car travel increase with this project?
I hope you guys can hear clearly.
Yes.
The proposed alternatives provide a benefit to the managed lane users. That means mostly the HOV people like a HOV3 and a HOV2 and transit users. This project is not adding any capacity to 92. All it is providing a benefit like a queue jump to provide the access directly from the express lane, managed lane to managed lane, and directly get to the San Mateo Hayward Bridge faster. This project also looking into the future, connecting the transit connection between the Hayward BART and Caltrain station. These are all the benefits we are looking into as a part of this project. This project is not adding a capacity. We are not expecting to increase the significant any capacity because the San Mateo Bridge has only 3 lanes. So we are planning to study. Once we complete the study, then we can more clearly answer the question about the commentator.
Thank you, Ravi. Let's see. I think we have a good, we're being asked. It sounds like we may want to go quickly through the project overview again, potentially. Just really quickly what the project is again. It's hard to understand the proposal where we can find and where we can find more detail and take time to look this over. I think what we can do, Sharina, do you want to take a look at the project overview one more time? And this might be for the good of the order, or...
Hey, Brandy, certainly we can pull up, if you can pull up.
Yes, let me get back to, just real quick, just so everybody has the same access and the lay of the land here.
And I would like to remind, the public that the information is also available on the website, which I think Brandy, you could also show again, so people can go there and download information as well as zoom into the information.
Okay. You guys can see that okay?
We don't see you sharing a screen yet.
It's going to prove trickier than I thought. Shouldn't. About now.
Sure.
You see it?
To further understand, I'm going by what I think the question is asking, which is understanding what is being done on this project. So if we could just go to maybe alternative 1 or alternative 2, so people can see where that improvement impacts could potentially take place. I understand that it might be a little small to see on your screen, but we have identified, there's the 101, which there a way? No, I can't do that. So there's the 101 express lanes that are in green, along in the center of 101. Oh, thank you, Brandy. Are you the one doing that?
Yes.
So you'll see that the idea here is to connect 101, and the connection here is shown in purple to 92 via a flyover from the northbound and southbound of 101 to a connection that's going to become a bridge that goes over CO2, and you can see that it goes down the middle between eastbound and westbound 92. Then it's going to come down the middle as an direct connector that provides access. And this is alternative 2, where it would either be a connector from westbound 92 onto 101, or from 101 in the reverse to eastbound 92. So I hope that helps clarify a little bit more. But this information is also available on the project website, which I believe was displayed earlier in the presentation. It's also available on the website as well.
Here we go. So I'll let that hang there just for a little bit longer.
Thank you, Brandy.
Thank you. Thank you for going over that again. Okay, let's see. We are going to now turn it over to, I think we might have Laura come back on and talk about traffic air quality studies. Want to talk more environmental since we're on a scoping meeting. Laura, you ready?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay,
Yep,
here we go.
I'm here.
All right. Will traffic and air quality, GHG, study forecast the potential for induced demand of more drivers that could result from building alternatives?
Yes, the traffic study, and Ravi could speak more professionally about the traffic analysis than I can, or more technically at least. But that is something that we understand is a concern that has been brought up, and various studies have been done on the on how some traffic highway improvements could induce more people to start driving if congestion is relieved. So that is something that will be looked at. There's also a requirement to consider whether the project would result in an increase in vehicle miles traveled. So that's, would there be more vehicle miles being traveled, more people spending more time in their cars, driving more miles in total as a result of this project. So those are things that will be studied and will be disclosed in the draft environmental document so that everybody understands what the results of those studies are and can comment on that. But we don't really have an answer yet. We need to study it.
Right. Okay. I am going to ask Jess to come back. We have a number of questions about transit impacts. So the first is, what will be the impact of the incremental car travel on transit ridership? How many people will start driving instead of taking BART from the East Bay? What will be the cost to taxpayers in additional transit subsidies?
Great. The traffic analysis that we'll do as part of the this phase of work will look at what changes there might be to the amount of driving, as well as if there's shifts between modes. So that's all information that we'll be studying during the environmental phase. Those aren't questions that we have answers to yet, but we do plan on studying that. The question about increasing transit subsidies, that's not something that we would typically get into as part of an individual project. There's really too many variables to effectively model that. But again, as part of this phase of the project, we will be studying changes in travel behavior that would result due to this project, and specifically the different alternatives and how those compare to a no-build alternative, both when the project opens as well as in the future.
Great. And how will this interchange impact bus ridership? Will this improve travel times, schedule reliability, or increase total number of riders? Similar thread here.
Yeah. Really a similar answer. I guess the other caveat is, as part of the traffic analysis, because the facility will be available, providing that direct connection between 92 and 101, those high occupancy vehicles and buses and shuttles will have access to that. And so what we've seen with the existing express lanes is that there is an increase in reliability for travel time. So that's a big benefit to anyone that's riding on those shuttles or buses.
Yes. Okay. One more for you, and then I'm gonna let you off the hook. And then Sean, I'm warning you, I'm gonna ask a question of you that's directly related to Caltrans and some of the other things that the contract we expect to see out of this. Okay, quick question for Jess. Who requested this project? Was it the San Mateo County Transportation Authority? Was it CCAG, the local elected officials? Can you give us some background on, how this came about?
So I can start with that, and then I would just welcome other folks on the project team to chime in. But this is a project that was identified both by the Transportation Authority and CCAG. It does show up in our short-range highway plan that we developed, the TA developed to help understand this number of projects that might apply for highway program funding from Measure A and Measure W, and as well as to help prioritize those projects. So it's definitely been a project that was identified by the Transportation Authority, and that's in response to concerns about congestion that we hear from both local jurisdictions as well as Caltrans and operational issues that they observe on the freeway.
That's right. Sean, do you want to add anything to that, or you want me to move on to the question?
I don't have anything to add. That was a complete answer. This is commonly identified as one of our priority interchanges in the county.
And this is Peter Skinner from the TA. I do want to mention that this project and a suite of projects at the 10192 interchange are included in the Regional Measure 3 identified list of capital projects. So, I mean, this is something that's been identified regionally as well.
Thank you. Great addition. Okay, Sean, since I had you on the mic, I do have it's a Caltrans question, road conditions of existing 101 express lane. So let's see where we land on this one. Will Caltrans use the same paving contractors for this project as they did for the recent 101 Express Lane project? We're probably a little ahead of ourselves here, but want to pose it anyway. That poorly built freeway started having pothole issues after only one rainstorm, especially 101 North, Redwood City through San Mateo.
This is a scoping meeting, so it's a little early to talk about contractors or pavement treatments. And I think if there are questions about the express lanes, people are welcome to contact me or Caltrans or any of the project team, and we can address those offline.
Yes. Wanted to throw that out there so we could then open the door, and maybe if there's a way to also put in our chat that the link to the Caltrans email. That would be good. Thank you, Sean, for entertaining that. Okay. I did so and again, I think we have a lot of good questions coming in. I want to remind everyone that all of these good questions need to be submitted formally because they will then be directly answered in the draft environmental impact report. I know that environmental scoping meetings can maybe be a bit frustrating for folks because we don't have a lot of answers to questions just yet. And that's why we go through this process. So that said, I do want to turn to a couple of things. Sharina, we are being asked, about right-of-way. What will private residents be impacted and at what level? There was in our project map, it shows, some lines and some dotted maps, and is that the footprint? People are asking, what are they able to identify if their property is impacted by this project at this point? Oh, I lost Sharina. Sorry. No, did I give you enough heads up? I'm sorry.
I was trying to click both and
yes,
had a little delay. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I'll go to the first question, the one about the dotted line. So the dotted line shown for the project limits is really just an expanded version to make sure that we can clearly see the limits on a very small scaled image. So it's by no means intended to show the full impact, because that's something we are going to be evaluating as part of this process. So no, the quick answer is the dotted lines is really just to show limits of where we anticipate going along 101 and 92. So, and then I think there was a question you mentioned about private residents being impacted.
Yes.
So all three build alternatives are being considered, and right-of-way impact is something that we will evaluate and look at as part of this phase. The project is adding, a big connector that's going to take up some room on both 101 and 92, but we haven't fully established where it's going to, what the footprint is going to be at, and that's something that we're going to get into greater detail once we're further along in this process.
Yes, thank you, Sharina. So speaking of EIR process, environmental document process, I'm going to ask Laura to come back on and explain again what additional opportunities there might be to comment. We do have on the screen, we show an in-person scoping meeting that's happening next Wednesday. We are asking for formal comments before May 15th. That's when the formal scoping 30-day window closes for public comment. But Laura, if you could expand on what some of the next opportunities are, and I can come back on and talk about some of the other things that we're going to be doing outside of these meetings environmentally to reach out to community.
Right. Yeah. So we, as Brandy mentioned, we're in the public scoping meeting where the comments now are really, getting your input on what you want us to study. So, although we can't answer a lot of questions because we haven't done the studies, we find it very helpful and important to reach out to the public and the public agencies to get your input now to help us know what to look at in the studies. We already have ideas of what we're going to look at, but you can bring up things to help guide us and inform us what you want the studies to look at. So we'll be considering every comment that comes in a formal written way, through the email or from the interactive comment form on the webpage. And we've got the webpage address up there, the project website address, and that website includes a comment form where you can submit your comments through May 15th, which is the close of this comment period for scoping comments. When we produce the draft environmental document, there will be another comment period. And so that is, we had a schedule. I don't know if we could bring the screen with the schedule on it.
Just read your mind.
Take a look at it. Thank you. So that gold star, I think we got the gold star for when there is the next opportunity. That's when the draft environmental impact report, environmental assessment becomes available for public review and comment. So when that's available, we'll be sending out the same notices, the same kind of venues. We'll be advertising it locally in newspapers, social media. And so we'll invite people to read the environmental document. It will be on the website. You can look at it on the website. There will also, there's always paper copies available at libraries and things like that as well for people who aren't online. And, so then that will be an opportunity to read what we studied, see what the impacts are, what the proposed measures are to address the impacts, and submit your comments. And every comment submitted during that public review phase for the reviewing the draft document will be considered and will be responded to in what becomes the final environmental document. The final environmental document is also available for public review. At that time, there's not a formal comment period. There's not really a mechanism for responding to comments. So reviewing the draft is really your opportunity to, comment on it and get your comments responded to.
That's correct. And there are a number of comments. And like I mentioned, I know the environmental scoping period that kicks off this process can be lost in translation a little bit about, how are we supposed to comment on the environmental impacts if you haven't told us what the impacts are yet. This is the part where you are confirming for us the number of environmental impacts in the evaluation we should be doing. There was a long list of topics, and I will pull those up quickly too, because these are really the areas that are up for studying, and we want to make sure that we're covering our bases. And then once we get all of the comments in and start to do the analysis, we come back out with the draft environmental impact report. I know we're being very redundant right now, but we want to make sure that because do understand the process and all the opportunities you have to provide feedback and input into the process. While I'm at it, there's a question about, let's see, what the kind of the project timeline is. And we wanted to, oops, sorry, too many windows here. Okay. So I just wanted to reiterate here that the anticipation for construction is that the duration is anticipated about 2 years, which will be refined as the project progresses, but both design and construction phases are contingent upon available funding. And that is something that Jess was mentioning earlier, that I did want to, since we're on the slide about the timeline, to reiterate that. Let's do, Laura, I know I said I was gonna let you off the hook, but I'm bringing you back on. I do want to focus our some of our kind of final comments here and questions on environmental. We are being asked how many vehicle miles traveled will be reduced per dollar spent. So really kind of VMT costs, right? I know this is
That's a really interesting way to think about it. That is a very interesting way to think about it. I don't believe that's a metric that we typically use, but you could certainly do that calculation yourself, because I think that the studies and between having information about funding and cost in the environmental document, as well as having, a lot of traffic metrics, including vehicle miles traveled, and somebody with a calculator could figure that out. My son could probably figure that out, without a calculator, but most of us, like me, need a calculator.
Yes, and we still have some definitely support for studying alternative projects that would reduce VMT, GHG, and air pollution. These include bike and ped projects like Complete Streets. So those are some of the comments that we're receiving.
Yeah, and this one project can't do it all, but it's great to get those comments in, to SMCTA's attention as they're considering, they have a whole suite of projects in their planning documents, and I'm sure they could speak to that as well, looking at those types of projects.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And we are getting some specific questions about, Jess, let me see if I can bring you back here real quick. To ask about 101 and the 101 north of Hillsdale. So is the analysis going to consider how this project's south touchdown within 101 north of Hillsdale will box out, fixing the weave areas on 101 between Hillsdale and 92? Looks like the current scoping designs use up the remaining free right-of-way that could later be used to fix the weave areas.
So I'd say at a high level, we've heard concerns with the weave in the past, and it's something that has been looked at as well, and is something that we're looking at in more detail now to understand if and how those improvements to address concerns with that weave, if it's appropriate to incorporate that into this project or not. As well as understanding if the right-of-way needs for the direct connector would impact future improvements to that area. So at a very high level, it's a little bit too soon to say, but definitely something that we're looking at.
Got it, thank you again. Okay, we are looking at getting some questions. and some comments of, again, of what we should be looking at, and how we might address some of these in the environmental document. I want to also encourage those of you who are still on the line to please put in your comments here about anything else we would need to study for the through the environmental document. We do have a question about where this slide deck or this is being recorded, and it will be shared on SMCTA's website that we showed earlier. Let me flash that up again. Okay, so we are, again, getting a number of questions. This, Jess or Sean, if you don't mind answering this one, it's about the highway widening. It's how would the different alternatives have or not have an impact on future widening of 92 from 280 to 101?
Sure, I can take that. So we don't currently have a project in development to widen 92. That said, by making a comment at this point, that's something that could be considered to understand how the alternatives might have such an impact. But right now, without a project, an active project, wouldn't typically be evaluating that.
Okay. Thank you. Looking through our document. So, okay. I do want to mention, thank you. We had an earlier question for Caltrans having the customer service request. I want to read this out to you. So those of you who have questions for Caltrans can go to their website at csr.dot.ca.gov. And I'm sure we could figure out a way to potentially share that through the chat. But again, that's csr.dot.ca.gov. Okay, one more. Laura, we have another traffic air quality question.
Sure.
Thank you. And I think this is where I like this question because it's worth talking about. Okay, the no build. We do have another scenario here. How likely is it that the no build scenario will happen should the DEIR project terrible impacts to air quality and traffic circulation?
Well, I don't know. I mean, at this point, I don't think we could, really identify a probability for how likely it is for the no build to be selected. It does happen sometimes, that is what ends up happening, is not building a project that's evaluated. But, it is a real alternative that needs to be studied and considered. I will say that.
Yes. And thank you. And I wasn't trying to put you on the spot or trying to create, probability, but I wanted to emphasize that this is one of the alternatives that are studied in
it definitely is. No, it's not just there for, to be knocked down. It's there to be seriously considered.
Okay. Some additional feedback. Okay. I will ask this question, and I think maybe Laura, but it is asking directly the TA a question, so I'll ask you both. And it pertains to Jess. Actually, I'll start with you if you don't mind. It talks about there's currently no transit over the bridge, and there's no bus service. AC Transit is no longer offers trans-based service, so that's a statement. But appreciate that transit has been considered in this project, but has the TA considered a transit-only solution? I worry that carpools taken out of the normal lanes will just be replaced by more single occupant vehicles, ultimately increasing VMT and providing no net reduction in congestion or use of local streets at great expense to the county.
So yes, I would acknowledge that currently there is no trans-based service that uses the San Mateo Bridge. It's something that fell during the pandemic, but we also believe that providing improved reliability for HOVs, whether it's shuttles and buses or two, three or more people in a car, is going to provide a better service for folks that are using the facility. And hopefully it's another reason that we could bring back transit service. I think we'd like to see improved transit service across the Bay. We have been, the Transportation Authority has the Measure A and Measure W fund a whole suite of programs. The highway program is only one of them. We also fund transit service and transit projects. We're actively working on expanding ferry service, which would provide improved transit service from the East Bay to the peninsula. But right now there is a really big gap between the Trans-Bay, I think it's the U route that uses the Dumbarton Bridge, and then BART farther north that touches back in, connects into Millbrae and our other San Mateo County stations. So we're hoping that with projects like this, we can support expanded and improved transit service, because right now it's, a lot of people choose to drive because they don't have good transit service as an alternative.
That was
yeah, and I would just add to that. Oh, Peter, did you want to add something? Yeah.
No, Jess covered that perfectly. Thank you.
The only thing I would add is, I think we're talking again about, raising the question of would there be induced traffic as a result of this project? And so that, we definitely have the capabilities, and we have some really good traffic analysts who will really get into that and provide a very thorough traffic study for people who are really interested in this to be able to look at the results in the environmental document to understand the extent to which that may or may not happen, because I think we have some very powerful, established traffic projection models.
Thank you. Yeah, we did have another question about, are there any plans for any bus route options from Hayward and Foster City that could take advantage of this? I think we're hearing that from a number of requests. Okay. I am seeing a couple of other questions I think it's worth revisiting. And we had, Laura, you described at the beginning I'm sorry, it wasn't Laura, it was Sean. So I'm going to ask Sean if he wouldn't mind coming back on about, who, like, we get through this environmental process, who is ultimately making a decision about the preferred alternative, and what happens once this environmental document is final.
As I mentioned, Caltrans is the lead agency on this, and the preferred alternative will be selected by the project development team based on the results of the draft DIR and comments included in the draft DIR, or comments too.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, We have, Laura, got a number of questions that we're going to pose to you, VMT related. How does this project reduce the region's VMT daily load? It looks like it will increase VMT because you are reducing pain points for drivers. How does this encourage reducing VMT?
Well, you know, we won't know exactly what this project does and doesn't do regarding VMT until we do the studies. You know, I think people have pointed out there's a possibility that as, you know, the direct connector makes it easier to stay in your lane, stay for vehicles using the existing express lanes, HOVs and others, as that becomes less, you know, that they can stay in that lane as they go through this interchange, it will help reduce congestion. Question is, you know, how much other traffic would that induce? It's been pointed out that, you know, the approaches to the interchange aren't being widened. So even if we, you know, reduce a pinch point at the interchange, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be, you know, free and easy travel. You know, we don't know how much travel time would be saved. We anticipate there would be some savings which would benefit users of the express lanes and HOVs, including HOVs. There's a possibility, we don't know yet, of some reduction in single occupancy vehicles because to the extent that reliability of the existing, you know, buses, it's not, you know, the public buses, but the you know, the vans and buses that go to employers that are private, those private vehicles, as well as you know, high occupancy, you know, carpools and such. You know, if we see more of those, that could you know, help reduce the total number of trips and miles traveled. So, you know, that these are things that get fed into the traffic model, and you know, Ravi and others will be running those models and, you know, sort of trying to get to the bottom of this, because they're very complicated things to figure out, because there are so many factors.
Good. I want to turn it back to Ravi. Actually, there's a couple of traffic, you know, congestion questions. So Ravi, if you are still hanging on the line with us.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. The question is, I'm going to start with this one. Will this project decrease congestion, increase speeds for non-HOV drivers?
It's not looking at only the existing, it is also trying to accommodate the growth based on the land use and information. The main goal of this project, if you read the purpose and need, when we compare to the no bill to the proposed 3 alternatives, the main goal is to improve the transit and the HOV users, but not make it worse or deteriorate the existing traffic at that point. So if the more peoples are getting through the HOV and land, yes, absolutely, there will be a decrease in the congestion, but it is not going to get into the free flow conditions, because then no one will get into the HOV lanes. As we mentioned, Laura mentioned, and Jessica and everybody, the main purpose of this project is connecting directly from 101 to 92 for the HOV users without going through moving to the right lanes and everything. But addressing the GP lane congestion, we are not expecting to decrease dramatically, but there may be a slightly better improvement over the peak period. But it will provide a more benefit to the HOV. But similar, we are trying to get through the similar congestion expected in the GP lanes.
Thank you. Please stay on, because I have another question. about the congestion being just a few hours a day. Why are we spending the money when the problem is so infrequent? Maybe we could talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the in the field and what the forecasts look like.
Yeah, if I can go to just the example, currently we are working on existing conditions. What we observed even after COVID, the congestion starts little after 2, and that continues almost until 7 after 7. So there is a severe congestion there on 92 and connecting to the 101 and 92. There is a congestion in the AM and PM peak hours. And as the people getting more and more, definitely the congestion is, even if you look at the index data and Google congestion maps, still you can see the congestion on the 101 as well as the connector and 92. This is all based on the not even future. This is all based on the existing current 2023 conditions.
Thank you, Robbie. Yeah. Okay, so I want to do a little bit of a time check. We are at 7:30. I want to be mindful of all of the comments that are coming in. We're addressing the comments, but again, we will have these all as part of our after meeting report, but we definitely need you to provide the comments for the formal record in these ways: mail, email, online. I know I sound like a broken record, but I want to make sure all of this good feedback is wrapped up into the draft environmental report. I want to maybe have 1 or 2 more questions answered, because we've had people patiently waiting after submitting. Let's see. Where did it go? Bear with me 1 second. Okay. I lost the question that I was going to ask. I apologize. All right, so we are looking at questions slowing down. I want to make sure that we have anyone else that on the team seeing any questions that need resolving that may need to be addressed here. Otherwise, we are asking that you please look for other ways to get in and participate and get involved. Again, we do have a in-person meeting where we will have this team at the Foster City Community Center in Foster City next Wednesday, May 1st at 6 p.m. It'll be a really good opportunity for folks to come and talk to staff and give us more comments and feedback on what we need to be studying. We also will have this recording online, and that will be posted at the project website at smcta.com/101-92DC. Reminder that there is all the information there. I know that some of the interchange photos and things, the renderings are detailed and might be difficult to see and zoom in on, but all of that information is on the project webpage. So is the form that you can fill out to also submit comments, and all of the other details that you need to to provide feedback and into the scoping period that ends on May 15th. And I think with that, we are about to close the meeting. I want to thank you all for attending tonight and being with us for the more than 90 minutes. Please continue to send your questions to the project team through the website. And we hope to see some of you at the public meeting. And we thank you for your time. I will end the meeting now for all.